Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching No Name playing in his Tier 7 German premium tank destroyer, the E25. Now I know I've featured this tank on the channel recently, and it certainly was a jaw-dropping replay, but No Name is going to have quite an accomplishment in this replay. You'll have to stay tuned. It is very tense, especially towards the end of it. But the real reason why I want to talk about the E25 today is that Wargaming have put it back in the premium shop in their advent calendar for a single day. And I really want to talk about Wargaming's whole policy around the advent calendar and their premium tanks, and the E25 is a perfect example. This tank was freely available in World of Tanks. You could purchase it in-game for gold right up until the end of 2015. And the reason for its removal from the shop, and it hasn't been available since, at least on the European server, was because this tank was crazy popular. Absolutely mega popular, one of the most popular vehicles around the mid-tiers. And it also has preferential matchmaking, meaning that it can only meet Tier 5 to Tier 8 tanks, never Tier 9, so quite limited. And what are you going to really do in an M7 versus an E25 with 2,700 DPM, that are pretty much like a Tier 8 medium tank plus another half? It's absolutely baffling. And so, the real reason why this tank, and here's the funny thing, Wargaming say that they removed the tank because it was too popular and they didn't want to rebalance it, rather than making drastic rebalances of the tank. They thought they would just remove it altogether, right? So, why was it really the most popular, one of the most popular premium vehicles? Because it's bloomin' overpowered. This tank is absolutely baffling. 2,700 DPM, one of the best on any, one of the highest DPMs at Tier 7, and that would be great DPM at Tier 10. It has, fair enough, weak alpha damage and weak penetration at 150, but it is the most one of the most accurate tanks at 0.3. 1.5 seconds aim time as well. Great gun dispersion values. It also has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is awesome for a tank destroyer, as well as being able to go at 65 kilometers an hour with a fantastic power to weight ratio of 27 and fairly good ground resistances as well. Great tank traverse, 44 degrees a second, allows you to drive around more like a medium or a light tank. This vehicle also has the best camo rating in the game when firing. Okay, what are its downsides? Well, I guess it doesn't really have very much armor, 50mm, but it's so low profile that, as we're going to see later on in the gameplay, No Name just uses the other characteristics of this tank, including its low profile nature, to be able to mitigate that. And so, while I don't think Wargaming would really admit the real reason why they removed the E25 from the shop, i.e. it was completely overpowered, and they didn't want to have to effectively nerf the most popular premium tank, at least at that stage of the game, and make all of those paying customers upset and feel like, they don't want to lose trust. They don't want to lose the players' trust that in the future, for their premium tank purchases, that they wouldn't just do the same. And so instead of nerfing it, which really would have been the correct thing to do for this tank, instead they just remove it from the shop. And really, I don't think this tank should ever go back in the shop, but today it is. And it's behind a bit of a paywall as well. I think this is going to be bundled for €50. Now, of course, that comes with awesome things like a set of missions, which you can use to either accelerate your crew training, or you can use to convert off and maybe skip some of the modules in your brand new Swedish tanks. But that is still putting an overpowered tank available for a single day behind quite a hefty payroll. Payroll? Even a paywall, eh? Look what No Name is doing to this poor 87. That is a very good vehicle, but not when it's caught out in the open by a tank destroyer with Tier 9 medium tank DPM and the mobility of a light tank, really. Absolutely crazy here. Now he's going to be going after the T-34-85. And one thing that No Name does exceptionally well in this replay that I didn't really think about in the E25 is to get into the face of his opponents. He loves to do this. He loves to get right up in their face, and they seem to panic and bounce off his vehicle. And that's definitely a tip that I can pick up from this replay, at least when I'm playing my E25. I always think of the E25 as a vehicle that I want to try and keep it as long range as possible against my opponents, and I don't really think about the fact that it's so low profile that you can actually face hug people in it as well. So while the E25 definitely is attractive to people who want to have a very powerful tank, crew skills are so important on this vehicle, as are things like chocolate, binoculars, even a camo net. This is probably the most useful tank in the game to have a camo net on, I would say. So if you're not going to use a camo net on this tank, I don't think there are any tanks apart from maybe your passive scouts that you want to use a camo net on. And the reasons for that I will be discussing in the future in one of my tank beta tutorials on a combination of equipment and also on the way that camo and view range works in World of Tanks. But I guess I'm just trying to think it through about what is worse. The fact that Wargaming are putting in a tank that they... So I'm trying to think about what is the lesser of the evils, so to say. Obviously Wargaming want to make money, there's no doubt about that, and they deserve to make all the money they can for this fantastic game, as long as it doesn't come at the expense of the balance, right? And I think if they were to make the E25 available and just increase the price of it and make it available for a few weeks or a month, then it would just completely destroy tier 5 to tier 7 matchmaking, really. And so I guess because Wargaming are putting it behind this big paywall, that it's not going to be purchased by as many players, but it's still going to make them enough money to, I guess, cover the costs of what they expect the tank to be worth, right? And one thing you've also got to feel sorry for is players who, I guess, throughout the year see one of these in the battle and they see it have a fantastic game and they think, oh wow, I can't wait to pick one of these vehicles up, right? And then they're waiting. Maybe they watch some videos on it, and it must be very frustrating to have a tank that you want more than anything, really, and to not be able to get your hands on it. So I guess from that perspective, it's good that they put the vehicle back in for a day, because if you really, really want this tank, and it's worth those 50 euros, with a good chunk of other bundled rewards in for it, then, you know, at least it's going to be available for those kind of players, right? But I guess the people who suffer are people like this Hellcat, right? People who aren't spending 50 euros on the game, and they just want to bomb it around and, you know, have fun in their balanced tanks and not have to meet, frankly, these overpowered vehicles such as the E25. Now, really, there are very few what I would call just completely overpowered premium tanks in the game. I'd say the E25 is certainly one of them. The Panzer II-J, definitely. Also, the PZB-2740, that Tier 4 German heavy tank, the premium vehicle, that can never meet any Tier 5 tanks. That's absolutely crazy as well. And also, I think the Tier, is it 5 French self-propelled gun, the Leffe, is absolutely crazy as well. So, when we think that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tanks in the game, I guess it's not too bad, really, if there's a handful that are completely overpowered. But that's not to say that that it's not an aspect of the game that I really don't like. It's probably one of the most horrible aspects of World of Tanks for me. But I can understand, as it is a free-to-play game, that Wargaming have to capitalize. But I just really hope that we don't see any more tanks like this in the future. But are we going to be seeing that with the Patriot? Will Wargaming make the Patriot available for the next few months and then figure out they've made a mistake, remove it from the game shop, and then bring it back next year for a 60 euro bundle during the advent calendar? Is that a monetization strategy? I really hope not. Maybe I'm being a little bit too cynical here. But I'm also trying to argue the other side of the argument. Hopefully you guys are seeing that. So No Name has basically driven around nonchalantly and he's just dominated 10 tanks and picked up 5,400 damage in a tier 7 game. What an absolute killer replay this is. He's used a combination of the mobility, the crazy DPM, the excellent aim time, the almost perfect accuracy of this tank, and a very good grasp of game mechanics to be able to dominate. And I think that's really what it comes down to with the E25, is that it is absolutely hilarious to just bomb it around in one and go crazy, but the tank is oh so dangerous in the hands of an experienced player. this vehicle has a very high skill cap. Or at least, yeah, I'd say it does have a high skill cap. And it also benefits massively from having a very good crew, from having the right equipment loadout, and it just can be absolutely dominating on the battlefield. So I guess maybe it's the lesser of two evils, the fact that this tank is coming back for a day. But also, I guess seeing how I've got one myself and I occasionally play it on stream, especially when you guys vote for it on the poll website, I can't really be one to talk, right? And so I'm not sure if I'm making any friends in this video. I guess I'm kind of annoying the free-to-play players because they think that I'm advertising a tank for wargaming that is never going to be affordable. I guess I'm annoying all the players who want to get the E25 because I'm kind of making it sound like they are paying money to be able to get an advantage in the game. I don't know. Maybe I should just quit while I'm behind, right? But I just hope that my discussion has... I hope that you guys understand what I'm getting at here, really. Is that I've really noticed recently that the premium tanks that Wargaming have been putting in have been a cut above what we would usually expect from premium tanks in World of Tanks. And the last thing that I want from one of my favorite games, right? One of my favorite games ever of all time is for it to go into like more of a pay-to-win area, right? I really thought that Wargaming, well, I still think, thought, it's not past tense. I haven't lost my faith completely. Maybe just a little bit. 2% loss of faith. But I really hope that Wargaming understand that every time they put a tank like the Panzer B2 in, a tank like the Panzer IIJ in, a tank like the E25 or the Leffe in, and put it behind a paywall, that they're damaging the matchmaker and they're damaging the balance of the game, which I should think that the rest of the 95% of players really, really enjoy. So irrelevant of my fairly melancholic commentary on this replay, No Name has a cracking result. He gets a Faden's medal for killing the last remaining vehicle with the last remaining shell in his tank, a Pools medal for the 12 kills he picked up, a high caliber medal for 5,921 damage, and a tank sniper for dealing the most damage, I guess, at long range. And No Name secured 2,290 base experience points, but he certainly paid to get it. He lost 10,000 credits even though he received 147,000. But then again, it's not every day that you have to do nearly 6,000 damage in a tier 7 vehicle. And most of those APCR rounds will have been saved to make the vehicle competitive against tier 8 tanks. And so No Name, thank you so much for uploading your replay. When I watched it the first few times, I thoroughly enjoyed it, even though it might not have seemed like it. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel out. And simply click the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see that incredible jaw-dropping E25 replay by Folopos. And I'll be very interested to see your comments about the ideas that I brought up in this video. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Do you think I'm missing the plot a little bit here? Or maybe you think that I'm dramatizing something that really isn't that big of a deal. Either way, come back tomorrow where I've got a fantastic replay for you and I'll be back to my usual kind of commentary. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.